All right, welcome everybody to our lovely pollinator webinar from Missouri. If you're joining us either live or in the recording, we are recording from Missouri, but we are broadcasting across the nation to celebrate Pollinator Week. We're really excited to be a part of the celebrations because we love pollinators in Missouri. We are in the direct pollinator path in the Midwest, so we are trying to do our part in celebrating pollinators and supporting pollinators in our school systems. Just to give you a brief intro, my name is Deborah Rogers Curtis, and I run a program called Show Me Green Schools. And we're going to get a little bit into that just for a moment, but our agenda basically today is introducing our speakers and understanding why Juneteenth is connected to pollinators. Today is June 18th on our recording day. Tomorrow is Juneteenth, and we want to make sure we acknowledge the connection there because there's actually quite a large connection. We'll go through some expert tips of how to run a school garden that can actually support pollinators. We'll meet with a community partner, and then we will actually hear directly from some educators who have school gardens and have supported pollinators in the past. We will have a Q&A for the live participants, but if you are watching the recording and you have a question that you would like to send to the speakers, feel free to contact me, and I will make sure to get it to the speakers directly. So, as I said, my name is Deborah Rogers Curtis, and I am in charge of this amazing and magical program called the Show Me Green Schools program. I love it so much. I am a former educator, and I was actually in these programs as an enrollee, and then I switched to running the program side, and it was really fun and exciting. We're going to hear from several community partners today, and we're also going to hear from several educators, including folks that dress up like kale, which is just a thrill a minute. So we're really excited to have some of our speakers online today. We also have some of our presentation slides are available, but our speaker is not available. So just a heads up, you will have some slides that are just slides without the speaker. So I run three different programs, the Green Schools Quest, Missouri Green Schools, and our state version of the National Green Ribbon Award. We are a program that really focuses in on school sustainability. And so we take on pretty much any aspect of school sustainability that you can possibly imagine, including gardens. And so we try and present every year to Pollinator Week because we do a lot of work with schools in pollinator support. If you're joining us and you are a Missouri or a Southern Illinois educator and you want to get involved in the 2026-2027 year, our theme is systems thinking. So we'll be diving deep into how school sustainability projects are all versions of systems thinking and how using systems thinking can really make a school sustainability project actually effective. If you have any questions after the webinar, or if you have a question for one of our speakers, my email is listed here on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to me for anything. And even if you're not in Missouri or if you're not in Southern Illinois, which is our official territory, I'd love to connect with you and get you resources. We're a nonprofit and we really believe in free. So if you would like some free resources, please email me. Our website's also listed and we have a lot of stuff on that website for free too. So I do want to take a moment to acknowledge Juneteenth, which is tomorrow. And I listed a lot of hyperlinks here because there are a lot of resources for understanding the connection between pollinators and the Black community and in American history specifically. There are a lot of really incredible things that happened throughout the history of African Americans and the connection between the land and how to care for the land properly. We have quite a lot of resources on our website as well about how Black farmers really understood the land a lot better than their counterparts across other races and even socioeconomic classes. And their knowledge was so invaluable in maintaining the biodiversity of this country that it has to be acknowledged and appreciated. But we also have quite a lot of pollinator resources that are more a little bit broader. But I wanted to just make sure that you know if you email me, I will be happy to send you these slides with all of these lovely hyperlinks. We also had a presentation last year where we dove even deeper into the history of Juneteenth and celebrating all of the Black farmers, specific Black farmers who really understood pollinators and made pollinators their priority. Okay, I'd like to turn it over to one of our speakers. We have a guest from the Missouri Botanical Garden and specifically the Butterfly House. If you are not aware, the Butterfly House is one of the campuses of the Missouri Botanical Garden. If you are not here in St. Louis, where we are all based, I really, really encourage you to come to St. Louis and visit the Missouri Botanical Garden. And you should really go to all of the campuses because they're so incredible. But I want to toss it over to one of our experts here who spends her entire day focused on the pollinators at the butterfly house. So let me shift the screen for just a moment. Ta-da! And then Maggie, I'm going to let you take over.
Okay. Hi, I'm Maggie Farrell. I'm the Science Education Coordinator at the Butterfly House. I'm going to talk a little bit today about uh, growing a garden that attracts butterflies and other pollinators. The thing that you always want to focus on are to attract butterflies and other pollinators, but specifically butterflies, are nectar sources that are available spring, summer, and fall. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to talk about attracting butterflies by planting host plants in your garden too. So we're going to dive into that too. All right. Nectar sources in Missouri, Illinois too. Uh, it's great to use native plants. You want to have a variety of native plants. You want to have a variety of different bloom times. And a great thing about native Missouri plants or native plants to wherever you're from is that they're low maintenance because they do very well in the native soil that you have and the environment that you live in. And what I mean by variety is planting like this is something that the variety, and then I have the downy flax and the tick seed and the poppy mallow. All of those are really great. That's a great variety to have in your garden, and it's also great because they have different bloom times, as you can see. You always want to have something. Sometimes it's hard to find something that will grow blooms in the early spring because you still have pollinators out there and they're looking for food, right? And then once those blooms are done, you want to have something that kind of picks up um, next, which is tick seed or coreopsis, which is very beautiful. I can point out the downy phlox is the little purple flowers in the left, and the tick seed or the coreopsis is at the top left. Poppy mallow is another one that blooms almost all summer. Really beautiful fuchsia color to the bloom, and that is right there in the middle on the left. Purple coneflower, I'm sure you guys all know that. Um, blooms from June to August, so that's another one that you want to, something that blooms during that time. Common milkweed is also something that's a great thing to plant, not only for the monarch butterflies, but also for pollinators in general. All pollinators love all of these plants. And the smooth aster is super important too. And I'll go into that more later, but that's located at the top right. But so overall, you just want to have a variety of native plants and you want to have a variety of bloom times. So you're always constantly being able to make sure the pollinators get the food that they need. And then also you can supplement with non-native, non-invasive um, nectar plants. So sometimes you won't have natives blooming and you need to supplement. So here at the Butterfly House, we use things like lantana, which is on the upper right corner. Really pretty flower. You can find it in a lot of different places to purchase them. They're very easy to find. But yeah, that's a great supplemental source of nectar. Purple salvia, which is in the lower right, that's another great source of nectar. It's not native, but it's not invasive. It's not going to hurt the environment. And fennel, uh, that's an herb, but the pollinators really, really like it. We have a huge fennel. plant here at the butterfly house that we have pollinators over all over it constantly. So just keep in mind to just you always want something blooming, and that's from very beginning of spring to very, very late September, early October, and that's going to be great for the pollinators. So another way that you can attract butterflies, native butterflies to your house or your garden or your school is to plant host plants. So butterflies are very picky eaters. All right. So for instance, the black swallowtail will chooses fennel, dill, or golden Alexander as a place that they're going to lay their eggs. Now, I already mentioned fennel as a really good nectar source. So even if you plant that herb in your garden, not only will you get a lot of pollinators nectaring, but you're also going to get black swallowtails laying eggs, and their babies are going to eat that fennel. Dill is another one. Golden Alexander is a native plant and has beautiful yellow flowers, and that is also a host plant for the black swallowtail. So if you plant these, you're going to attract a lot of swallowtails to your garden. Um, the monarch, the host plant is milkweed. Now, there's a lot of different types of milkweed in Missouri that you can use in your garden. I listed a few. The thing with, and it's also a great pollinator plant too, because all the pollinators are on it, on the flowers all the time too. Now, the thing with milkweed is that you want to make sure that you do not use the tropical milkweed here in the Midwest, because that can really, it's not native and it can really mess up the monarch journey to Mexico. Um, so what tends to happen is, the tropical milkweed is blooming at a different time. They're blooming at the end of the summer when the monarchs are supposed to just be flying to Mexico, right? And then they see these milkweed plants and they're so beautiful and they want to go nectar on them and they want to go lay eggs on them because this plant looks so good. It's going to be so good for their babies. Um, but then if they lay, if they mate or, whoa, I'm getting
Sorry, hold
echoed.
on one second. I don't know what just happened.
That's
Is it
weird.
better now?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
that is. Okay. So what happens with the tropical milkweed is, yeah, the butterflies love it. They're going to see it. They're going to be like, oh, that's a good place to lay eggs. They're going to mate, lay eggs, and they're not going to make it to Mexico because after they mate and lay eggs, they're going to die. So you just want to be careful about that and stick to the natives, milkweeds. So, a couple other host plants I want to tell you about is false blue indigo, which is a beautiful plant and it blooms early in the spring. So not only is it a good nectar source for early spring pollinators, but it's also a host plant for skippers, which the skippers are over here on the right, a picture of one. Um, the Buckeye butterfly, which you guys probably know of, top left. Their host plant is beard tongue, which is also another beautiful pollinator plant. Now, all these are natives that I'm listing. So false blue indigo and beard tongue are natives. So if you can do plant a native and also plant a host plant at the same time, which is pretty cool. The pearl crescent butterfly, which is located on the lower left, aster is a very, very important host plant for them. So, and like I said, that's where they're going to be looking for those plants. They're going to be saying, "Oh, those plants are where my baby caterpillars are going to be eaten." So, planting these will attract butterflies. Another thing I want to mention before I go about aster, super important plant for the monarch migration to Mexico because it blooms late. And when they're flying to Mexico, all they're doing is eating and flying, eating and flying, eating and flying. And if there are no nectar sources in Missouri, that are there during that time, they're not going to have enough food. So I think I always like to talk about aster and how important it is to have it blooming because it blooms towards the end of the summer and into the early fall. Does anybody have any questions?
Maggie, I have two questions that have already been sent to me in the chat, so I'm gonna
Mhm,
ask those to you live, and then I will email you if there's others because I know you have to jump off.
mhm.
But the first question in the chat was if I already have plants that are planted in a garden, is it possible to figure out if they're good or bad for pollinators?
Yes. So you can use a couple. So I usually typically use iNaturalist, which
Mhm.
is a free app that you can put on your phone, and it helps me identify plants. It helps you identify any living thing. So you can use it for plants, animals, butterflies, bugs, whatever you want, fungus. But if you use that app, you can identify what that plant is if you don't know what it is. Okay. If you know what it is, I suggest checking out the Missouri Department of Conservation or Missouri Botanical Garden website because they have a list of natives. Or just Googling it to see if it's a native Missouri plant. That was what I would typically do.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And
Hmm.
then the second question that was put into the chat was more so about what happens if I planted natives and the butterflies did not come the first time? Should I wait another season and see if they come again or try and come, or what am I
Hmm.
doing wrong?
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm interested to find out which plant that is, but I would let it. So sometimes it takes a couple years for the natives to get established and bloom a lot. Um, so, for instance, I have been working on my own native pollinator garden for the past like 4 years. When I plant a new plant, sometimes it just it just doesn't bloom or the first year or it's really small.
Mhm.
But I've been finding that after that second year and third year, that's when they just start to get really big and the flowers are huge. And then it's just attracting more and more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Maggie. I know Maggie has to jump off the call, so if there are more questions later for Maggie, feel free to ask them and I will pass them along and make sure that I send out all of the answers. Really appreciate your time and tell everyone at the Butterfly House we said hello.
Okay, well, thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Lisa, you are up next. I'm very excited to see what this reference is about because I love the story of the country mouse and city mouse.
I
So,
know, right? Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, I was, city bred, right? I'm born and raised in Chicago, but I love the earthy, hands-on lifestyle and of the country mouse, right? So, and I've always enjoyed watching the process of my plants grow up. So that's where that reference comes from. But before I had the opportunity to work with Matt Laban, which some of you may, or all of you may know from his custom foodscapes days. I used to have standard grass, bushes, a few cute flowers, would throw some veggie plants in there. But I only had a few a little of pollinator activity, right? But I had plenty of pests. And oddly enough, even in my flowers. But today I'm cultivating a foodscape garden in my front yard, which I don't think I can continue to call it a yard anymore. So if anyone has any cute ideas as to what to call it, right? I'm in the South City area, growing vegetables at the front of my house, right? So let me know if you think of anything. And I was aware of pollinators and their purpose, but I had absolutely no idea of the variety that existed and the intensity of their mission. They're on a mission, right? Can you go to the next slide, please? So my garden now is two zones, and this is different years and different iterations of my garden, but It's two zones. So a native pollinator zone that sits at the back of the space closer to the house. And Maggie has validated my existence, right? All of the flowers and things that she was saying attract, I can vouch for. I had it, my the pollinator section is loaded with hyssop and echinacea, black-eyed Susans, bronze fennel, aster coreopsis. I have an apple tree, all the things, right? And so in front of the pollinator section, the other zone are two tiers of irrigated raised beds that I use for growing my veggies, herbs, and companion flowers. And I change it every year. The community is always asking what's this and what's that. So, but more importantly, I'm in awe of all of the insects and pollinators that find the garden just as attractive as I do. The next slide, please. Yeah, so I've noticed that having the largest concentration of attractors behind the growing beds, it pulls the pollinators over and through my technical terms, right? Over and through my veggies. And then those that require pollinating end up becoming bus stops for them on their journey back and forth. So I've come up close and personal with insects and birds I've only heard of or seen in pictures, like a trillion types of bees. I've seen wasps, lacewings, ladybugs, hummingbirds, finches, right? That yellow finch, which they're out just outside my front window all the time now. Butterflies, dragonflies, and me and my bronze fennel, just like Maggie said, we are even gracious hosts to the black swallowtail caterpillar, which it took me some research before I realized why they were eating my fennel. Today, my bronze fennel plant is so big that there's enough for them, me, the entire community, right? So, but I've also noticed that whoever gets to the plant first has the right of way. For me, getting over the fear that they're out to get me and not shooing them away was extremely important. It seemed to give them a feeling of safety from this big giant, and they continue to come back. Uh, Now, when I'm working in my garden, we coexist and we work around each other. Now, don't get me wrong, I still pay attention to the ones that seem to have gotten up on the wrong side of the bed and they're a little angrier that day. And I just give them their space. And although I guess there's no winning with the mosquitoes, they could care less. Um, and the pictures, oh, I want to show, can you mind going back? The pictures that I have here are pictures of the birds and insects that these are in my own garden, right? So the bee in the middle is on the hyssop, and the caterpillars, the black swallowtail caterpillars on the fennel on the right, the finch at the bottom left. My very most favorite picture is this wasp that is balancing on a, this is my fig. It's balancing on a branch that is about as big as your pinky, and I'm just as close to it as the picture looks, right? So, and it's balancing there with all its little legs. So I love these close-up pictures that I get a chance to see. And the next slide. So ultimately, what I've learned is that if I fulfill my role, this is a symbiotic relationship, right? We can all benefit. And besides the sun and the air and the water and the soil, me and the pollinators could not accomplish this bounty without each other. This is some of the stuff that I have pulled out of my garden over the years. And it's been maybe 3, 4 years now. This is maybe my fourth year with my garden. So I grow things just to see how they're going to grow sometimes, right? black beans in the pod down there. So yeah, it's fun, and I enjoy it. And thanks for inviting me to share this.
Thank you so much, Lisa. First
Mhm.
of all, those pictures are ridiculously beautiful. I cannot believe that those are from your actual garden and
Yeah,
not just they look like a stock photo from Google.
right. Yeah.
Um, a couple of questions that have come through so far. First, one question was in a smaller garden space, when you're planting multiple varieties, do the plants compete with one another or do they complement each other?
Um, so I think a lot of what I've learned is that if you when you plant and you plant with spacing in mind, understanding how big they're going to become. But a lot of the pollinators, they all complement each other. And over time, they do get bigger, and you may have to thin them out a bit or rearrange a little bit. But and the companion flowers and the veggies, all of that, they it again a symbiotic relationship that everything seems to enjoy being around the other. There may be some vegetables that might not want to be planted with each other or, flowers or whatever, but for the most part, I think they all thrive off of each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then the second question was I I also resonated with this, but there was somebody else who asked about when you said not shooing away the
Yeah.
animal or the creatures, the little
Yeah.
critters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Specifically, they talked about the bees and how, at a school, there are children with bee allergies and that kind of
Yes.
thing. So,
Yeah.
what was your process for kind of like staying calm and learning how to understand when somebody is a little cranky and needs to be avoided, or how did you approach that symbiotic relationship of you in the garden?
Yeah, it took time, right? So I'm like everyone else. I'm like, flying and ducking and everything else. But um oddly enough, you actually can tell those that are agitated,
Mm.
or again, what I've learned is that if I'm already there, they go around me. But if they're there and I intrude, then it's like, excuse me, you might want, and they tend to let you know. And when they are agitated, then I just step away, move to another part of the garden. But yeah, initially I did do the shoeing and the pulling it up, swatting it away or running. So it just, I sometimes I just had to stop and pay attention to what they were trying to do. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I love that. Thank you. That's a helpful tip for me as well, because I get very skittish around the
yeah, yeah,
creatures.
yeah,
I love to be
yeah.
outside, but man, the bugs, they're not my
I know.
favorite.
I have yet to conquer the mosquitoes. So yeah,
No, that's different.
yeah,
That's a little tough.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. We really appreciate your
yeah.
slides and your time and your expertise. And I will definitely keep you posted if any other questions come your way.
Okay, my pleasure. Thanks.
You. We're going to switch over to Miss Fernandez from Bridgeway Elementary.
Hi, thanks for having me here. I am. I've been a reading specialist with Bridgeway Elementary School, and got interested in getting kids connected to gardens. And we put in a garden around 2018. But a little bit about Bridgeway is we're a Title I elementary school. We're in the Pattonville School District. And we can have anywhere between like 435, sometimes 475 students, just somewhere around there. And what makes us really amazing too is that we are the second most diverse public elementary school. Um, we represent about 20 different countries all within our school. Um, we joined the Missouri Green School program in the 22-23 school year, and I got to tell you, it's just been an amazing endeavor. By joining that, we've learned so many things, just to be more sustainable, and it's really built our community. within the school and outside of the school too. We've because of the Green School program. But when we first entered it, we were focusing a lot on reducing waste and composting and getting that reestablished. We had done some of that before COVID, and then the Green School program helped us get back on track. But then after that, we really started thinking more about the garden space because I started learning more. I joined, got certification in Missouri Master Naturalist program, and I was really learning a lot about native plants and native pollinators. And I realized that our garden space that we had put in back in the 2018, around 2019, just wasn't planted with that in mind. And I think on the next slide, this used to just be filled with a lot of weedy space, and we created a community fundraiser, and then built this space to become our first garden space there. And at the beginning stages, we planted some things that mainly we just wanted to look nice. We did, or some people also, having things in the winter time that would stay there, but that's not necessarily best for pollinators. So some of those evergreen, which can be helpful, but they're not really meant for pollinators. So we had chosen plants that were mainly from larger stores, like, not going to, that maybe didn't have as many native plants at the time. So we just didn't realize the importance of native plants and native pollinators. So that's when we started thinking about updating. And the way we wanted to update was really involving community too, families, and just the whole school, because it's a great way to teach as we learn as well. And also just thinking about the garden is not just pretty flowers, it's actually a living classroom. And so really making sure to embed that within our within all the different subject areas also. But here are some pictures of last summer, over in the top right picture, we see some students, some families planting. We had put big posts in the ground and labeled the different plants of where they would go. They got to choose some native plants that we had gotten, and where to put them. So we started adding some more native plants. And we had a high schooler help build a bug hotel that we placed in the garden, and adding things in there to attract some of the bees, the native bees, over the winter. And we're adding a bird feeder with the Wi-Fi recording, so classrooms can connect and see what birds might be coming around the school, and that's going in this summer. So it's an ongoing process. But also connecting to literature, it's really important. There's so many ways to learn through books, and then bringing the books to life outside. And we're so lucky to have an amazing art teacher at our school, Miss Ehlers, who is always trying to connect what we do in the garden. And she worked on a mural with some fifth grade that
Did everybody else lose Miss Fernandez too?
after school club
Uh-oh. Think we think we lost. Oh, are you back?
I'm here. Did I get lost?
Okay, yes, we got you back now. You sound good. Keep going.
Okay. Just essentially, it's just really trying. The more we learned, the more we wanted to, share our learning and families involved, embedding it within all of our school curriculum the best we could. And so we had family garden days also. But and then the garden clubs, the after school clubs would create videos to help teach the rest of the school, and they would also help plant. Um, and um, some tips that we've learned to help kind of keep it going is there's so many grants available, and so we really looking for those grants, kind of help us achieve a lot of the things that we're trying to do, and just creating lots of opportunities for the whole school. And when you do that, you have that ownership. But this picture of there's a young girl. This was a fun day at one of our clubs. Annalise, in this picture to the top right, we found a chrysalis one of the days. And so that was a magical moment, finding that during our club. And so we took a picture of that. Um, and just speaking on, I think what Maggie was talking about, how it takes a while for for the natives to really grow fully. This was our first year, so they're not as big as they will be this year. Um, and some natives plants were on the table down there that we had set out, and families could come and choose what they wanted to plant, and then find the post with the name of the plant on it, where to put it. But there are a lot of resources out there. We use the Grow Native database a lot. There's a lot of great information about the importance of native plants, not just for the pollinators, but for growing our own food, because we need those pollinators to help a lot of our food crops to grow, so it attracts them. Um, and just starting small is probably one of the biggest pieces of advice. Um, I know I like to I have all these ideas and I want to do it all at once, but starting small with just maybe focusing on one specific pollinator, and one plant at least, or maybe you could do more than that, but just starting small. And I think on the next page, so ways that we've embedded, for example, at Steam Night, this past Steam Night, this past year, I had a room where we painted pollinator postcards, and many families were surprised to find out all the different types of pollinators. It's not just butterflies or bees, beetles, hummingbirds. We have a lot of different pollinators, and each of those postcards had a little information about them, and they could send the postcard to somebody else. And then we made watercolors out of old dried up markers. So we recycled the markers and turned them into watercolor paints. So that was kind of neat. And then we had done some monarch studies, and one of the years we tagged monarchs late in the season. That was fun. And then my good friend Larissa, she's holding a black swallowtail, and involving everybody, not just students, but adults too. She retired this past year, but this is one of my favorite pictures of her. And we had a swallowtail that had opened up recently, and she was letting it go, and so that was a fun time. So just there's so much to learn, and so many things, so many ways to teach it.
I love these photos. That is like one of the happiest photos of somebody holding a butterfly I think I've ever seen. This is so
Yes,
great.
I
I
love
do
it.
have a couple of questions for you. First one is I see that you have a lot of different content areas who have embedded this into their classrooms, but did you have an overarching curriculum or curricular source that you were pulling from to help teachers?
Well, well, the green school program is what really guided us. So I was the green school lead for our school, and with the Missouri Green Schools, there are a lot of resources. So we didn't have a particular curriculum that did this, but I would often find things and share it with the teachers, and just have conversations with them. And it was not an instant thing. It was one of those things that it's we've been working on it for a few years.
Mhm.
But it got to the point where I was doing some whole school sessions myself, out in the garden. So we did not have a specific curriculum, but it's just finding those resources and thinking about how we can embed it into the curriculum that's already there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is kind of a message I've heard from a lot of successful school gardens is trying to treat it as separate is it is a strategy and sometimes you have to do that, but if you can embed, it's usually more effective. One other question that came up was, how did you originally justify your connection as the reading teacher to doing these kinds of projects?
Well, it's just I just saw a need for it. We it Many years, you start observing certain behaviors and in the school and things, and I went to my principal one day and I said, we need a garden. And I was fortunate enough to have to be around that as a kid. My mom liked to garden, and my grandparents had a farm, and I was outside all the time, and just I didn't realize how important it was to me until I was inside a lot and I didn't even have access to it, and just noticing just the need. And so it took a while, but it finally, my principal said, okay, well then you have to get a committee together, and so I did, and we put on a little fundraiser. And it's one of these things that at first it was hard to maybe for the vision to be. I had the vision, but it was hard to show everybody else it at first. But it kept growing and growing and growing, and now it's really important to the school. It's just an important part of it, and so it's just one of those things that takes a while. But for me, it was just something I became very passionate about, and so it just kept growing from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a common story of, you mentioned this earlier, starting small and then it builds and it builds and it builds. And then all of a sudden it's an inextricable part of your school culture, which is amazing. That's the goal.
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jean. I really appreciate all your time in preparing your slides and your wise words today. I love everything that happens at Bridgeway. So we'd love to see these photos too.
Well,
And oh, go
I
ahead.
just really want to push the Missouri Green School program because that's huge in making all of this happen.
I'll take that all day. Thank you for that lovely plug. And yes, that is true. We're going to switch over to Lynn Scott, who is part of Principia School. Lynn, take it away.
Thanks so much. I love hearing all the things we've heard so far. And Lisa, I just have to circle back to you working with Custom Foodscapes because I connected with Matt early on in his work, and the permaculture orchard that we have at Principia. It was his first project as in Custom Foodscapes. So I love the full circle thing. I took a picture, and I don't know. So such good work across the area. I'm Lynn Scott. I'm Principia's Director of Stewardship, Partnership, and Impact, and I work closely with Hope Gribble, who's our Garden Education Coordinator. And our school is an early childhood through 12th grade school. We have about 500 students total across like EC through 12. There's a lot of land that we sit on, which is nice. But beyond that, I think what's important to recognize is it's a school that early on and now really does value experiential education, service learning, and having our students take action in the world. We have something called Print Giving Days, and that's for all levels, where we are out in the community and sometimes out on campus giving back and understanding what's happening in the community and being of service. So um, in our case, talking about pollinators, that's meant that we get a lot of help with the maintenance, and therefore, as we'll talk about later, and I've heard it already, that helps with buy-in from the community and the kids when they're involved and taking action as well. Our journey started back in well, I mean, I would say we've had this journey for quite a while. Like as a school, there's been like I said, a very clear connection to experiential education and the outdoors. But in terms of being intentional about the native plantings, that has started with a grant that we got from Wild Ones way back in like 2013 for a native garden, and it's actually the one in the upper left hand corner. That picture, that was what the area for that grant. And then we also participated in a Green Apple Day of Service where we had plugs of natives coming out. We were redoing our lower school playground and being intentional about adding native plants. This is back in 2013, 14, and turned it into a community-wide Green Apple Day of Service where the community and kids could come and plant those native plants. Go ahead and go to the next slide. I guess what I really want to highlight is I want to showcase what curriculum integration has looked like across all of the levels at Principia, because as you heard from previous speakers, like that really is a key thing in terms of getting our students involved and caring. Um, and beyond that, being able to support the pollinators, to have these spaces and be able to support these spaces, we need everyone involved. So our early childhood kiddos in some of our spaces in that permaculture orchard I was referencing from that Matt helped us with, they harvested native plants, created dyes out of them, and then made little capes for the kids out of these, the natural dyes. So that was a super fun project. And again, just being present and seeing what's sitting on those plants and why are these plants important. Go ahead and go to the next one. Our lower school has lots of different connection pieces, but I wanted to highlight three. Our second grade has regularly had a monarch project, and in the state standards they work in, it's looking at pollinators and it's looking at plant cycles. And so, just like Deborah was saying, this isn't a separate curriculum. It's like how can we enhance and really elevate and bring to life the existing curriculum? And that's what these experiential pieces allow for. So, they've done big pollinator work. You see the swallowtail, you see the monarch caterpillar. They wrote books, they published articles about what they were observing. They've done seed collection, you can see in the upper right, not necessarily all from native plants that were planted, but even the trees that are around. What are the things that you see as we look at seed diversity? Our third grade has an economics unit where they focus on bees. And we do have beehives at the school. And so we've been having the kids come out and learn about bees and what's present, how to care for them. And then they have presented, last year they used beeswax to kind of make a lip balm. They've harvested honey when that's been available to be able to share with the community. Again, just building out this really community-wide connection to our native plants and pollinators that are intertwined. The picture on the lower left, we have kids planting native seeds. Again, finding this full circle where they can then go out to the playground in different areas to to plant. Our fifth graders, part of their curriculum focuses on systems and systems thinking, whether it's the solar system or the natural system. So recognizing, pollinators within this larger system, again, has been, they'll study the prairies and what is that ecosystem and what's the role of the pollinator within that. So again, just that integration within the curriculum is key. Go ahead and go to the next slide. It'll be another example. This has been neat. This is kind of the power of having students be able to support with maintenance. There's a lot of it. While natives are less work, there is still maintenance to be done. And it's really important for the kids to be involved in that. And as they learn about the pollinators, they want to be involved in that and they want to take care of the homes. So this has been a little project where even in the wintertime, our kids were doing some native plant winter caretaking, recognizing that you have insects that are laying eggs in the stems of our winter plants. So we want to leave those standing till late winter. The kids come by and they cut them and then they spread them, nearby. So again, just a neat example of how through the seasons, these kids, in the fall, they get all excited and then they want to keep going. They want to keep, what else can we do? What do we do now? And there are things throughout the year that we can do to support. On the next slide, I've moved into kind of middle and upper school. And again, there's maintenance support and this really great connection that allows for this connection with our natural spaces. The picture in the middle has our students harvested persimmons from our orchard, and then we made persimmon cookies from them. So that's kind of a fun full circle thing. The picture on the right is a really, Hope is a phenomenal garden coordinator, education coordinator, but also artist as well. And um, basically pulled together this incredible we needed a map of the permaculture orchard. So essentially we had the entire middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th, um, be able to draw their own individual section of the permaculture orchard. And what you see in that picture is the combined map of the permaculture orchard that has species accounts across the outside of all the species that are present in that orchard, so natives as well as food. And then the inside just is highlighting all of those species. So it really it's such a valuable, important way to be able to look close and have our kids really appreciating what is present. The next slide has a few tips that I just wanted to highlight. We already talked about the importance of curriculum connection and just really elevating what you have there. How can it, lift it even more? One thing that I wanted to highlight is when our kids, and this is kids of any age, can build a specific relationship with a pollinator or plant, it's really it's an important next step. So whether it's using iNaturalist to find out the name of the species, we protect what we know. When we know it, we can love it. When we love it, we want to protect it. And so really with a lot of these things, sometimes it's having our kids, let's research, you are the expert on this one pollinator. And yes, you're going to learn about the others, but then they feel like they have this connection and they can name things and feel that appreciation. Another tip is just, and this is, I feel like we've been able to make a lot of progress as a community by also partnering with our landscaping team. Partnering and engaging across all the faculty wherever possible, and then building community support through, our community wants to volunteer in the summer to take a week to care for the garden. Hope's done a great job putting out a survey, like, what weeks are you available? Do you want to pop in and just take the harvest of the garden and, do a little bit of watering? That's a really great way, again, to build buy-in and community, and to have our landscaping team work together with them to recognize the importance of natives and to plant wherever possible. Lastly, next steps that we have going, our school hosts an annual bio blitz, and it's not necessary. We don't blitz the area of our planted native gardens, but as I mentioned, we that is something that can be done. So a BioBlitz doesn't have to happen on broader land. It can happen in a playground. It can happen in a garden. And what's been really neat is it's been a neat way to have community involvement and to be able to track the species that we're seeing. I would like to do a better job for us in tracking the species we see in the planted pollinator gardens that we haven't done. So that's kind of a next step on my to do, but I wanted to highlight the value of a BioBlitz. We've done that on kind of the broader land, and this year in May there were 237 species identified, not just insects, but I think we had 76 different insects that were identified, and that using iNaturalist, using additional people that were helping to identify, it was just a neat way to come together and to bring awe and appreciation for the natural world, that this is in our backyard, and something that we can celebrate together and make a difference in elevating and helping around us. So I think that's it for me. Happy to answer any questions. And I sure love the inspiration that everyone has been sharing today.
This is ridiculous. 237 species just in what time period was that?
We do all day Friday, like 8 a.m. until 10 p.m., and then Saturday morning until noon.
That is absurd. Oh
Isn't
my
that
gosh.
cool?
That's amazing. I love that. I think that that is a really special way to show kids how important the land is that their school is on. This is not just a parking lot where your school happens to be. This is a home. This is amazing.
Exactly.
What an amazing project. Okay, a couple of questions for you. First, thank you for showing us all of the different age levels. We have quite a few people who work at schools who are pre-K through 12 or PK through 8, a wide range. One person's question was, how do you see the engagement and the interest change among the students as you go up in age?
Yeah, that is so interesting. I mean, they are so fired up, early childhood, lower school. It looks different. There's no doubt in middle and high school, but it doesn't mean it's not there. It's just a little different. It takes a little different engagement to get them there, and then they're excited. So, and it's not every kid either. So, I guess what I see in middle school, like we have a sustainability curriculum that like we get an hour a week with each sixth grade, seventh grade, and eighth grade in middle school. And so that's not a ton of time, but it is something. It's this connection to, and I should say that's over like a 10-week period of time. So it's not the full year even. But so the engagement does look different. But anytime you're getting kids outside, knowing something with more familiarity, beginning to appreciate it. The engagement looks different for different people, but it is there. And I feel like the needs that each person has for our connection with the outdoors, it looks different for everyone. So while everyone may not be clamoring to the garden, there are middle school and high school kids that are reaching out and saying, "Hey, I want to be a part of this." Um, and and so it's there, it just looks a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of a related question is, do you have some educators, some teachers who are less interested than others? And how do you approach when you see an educator who's really not that comfortable being outside or comfortable in the great outdoors with, creatures, etc.? How do you approach that?
Absolutely. Yes, there is the whole range. When we do BioBlitz, when we do all these things, we have all the teachers coming out, and some of them are hesitant to want to walk out, and that's okay. Like I think just like we do with students, we meet people where they are and find the joy and the good of the things that they appreciate and work to build the comfort from wherever they are. It doesn't mean that every single teacher is going to use every single garden at all times, and that's okay. I feel like in our conversations, it's trying to work to meet someone where they are, number one, and recognize that the end goal isn't necessarily, it's not prescriptive. The
Yep.
end goal is not prescriptive. And so what the connection is for them might that they want to make might look different. Maybe at the high school level, sometimes it's who are we studying, or what is it that what's the content of what we're talking about. Maybe they're not as interested in taking the kids out. Nicely, we have faculty like Hope and myself and Doug Hoff who can say, well, we can take your kids out for you if you want to have a little experience, if you're not comfortable. So meeting people where they are, recognize the good that they bring, and trying to tie in wherever possible.
I think that's amazing. And I think that's the right approach because just like kids, adults all have different interests and different abilities and different needs. So I think that's
Absolutely.
really beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. And thank you for your time and prepping these slides and just sharing some really cool stories out of this. It's a very unique campus and a very unique school. So I know, but I know each of our school contexts can all pull something out of that. So thank you very much.